Let's get to our panel. Eamonn, Fitzpatrick and David Gazzard. Eamonn, to you, what a big day in Australian politics. How do you see this playing out? Peter Dutton, Ted O'Brien and co seem quite relaxed having this as a referendum on energy, as it was put to Peter Dutton earlier.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran. I think there's a lot of people, particularly on my side of the fence, are probably quite happy to have this as some sort of referendum. I just think it's a disaster for Peter Dutton, whichever way you look at it. I think the politics of it, basically, he pulls himself apart. You know, people want genuine leaders. They want leaders who say what they mean and who do what they say. All they know about this guy in climate change is he's best known for cracking gags about one of our neighbours going underwater. You know, he then releases what is a visionary plan to change the energy landscape. No detail. This is a bloke who campaigned against The Voice, which had plenty of detail with it, on the grounds that there was no detail. So, and I think people see straight through that. Plus, there's a whole bunch of other hairs on it. Internal opposition, that's been canvassed already. You know, site selection, someone just made that up, really. You know, it's just complete madness. And on top of that, you've got the actual sector itself. I mean, you know, Frank Calabria, CEO of Origin, it's got to be the biggest yeah-nah ever in the energy sector in some time. And he said today, it's just simply not scalable. So I don't know where he's hoping to find support. You know, I think Ted O'Brien trying to be as convincing as possible, but again, no detail. So if anything, I think it actually sets it up for a contest of a different sort than what Peter Dutton is hoping. And it just screams to me like, well, goodbye teal seats. I mean, it's a remarkable thing to be doing.
David Gazzard, what's your take on the way this was delivered today? If you were advising Mr Dutton today, would you have said, put some dollars around this?
No, not necessarily. And I disagree absolutely 100% fundamentally with Eamonn. It is leadership to put this out now, particularly while we're in a cost of living crisis and energy costs have just got higher and higher and higher under this government, despite them going to the last election saying they were going to cut energy prices. What it says to me is that Peter Dutton is quite confident and comfortable having this debate all the way through the next election, because today was all about the locations and Labor had been screaming, saying, where are they going to be located? Tell us where they're going to be located. So he's done that today. Now they move it ahead to say, oh, well, how much is the cost going to be? And I think they'll have that debate a little bit further down the track. There is going to be a number of bite-sized iterations to this debate, all of which says to me, as a political practitioner, they are quite pleased to have bite-sized debates around this all the way between now and the next election. So for all those people who are crying out for cost of living relief, all of those who want guaranteed power supply, don't turn to the alternatives, Origin Energy. Well, that's a competitor to what they've announced today. No wonder they're not jumping up and down. They don't want another competitor in the game. I think what Peter Dutton today has done is set up a debate that goes to energy security and cost of living. He will be able to point to the Labor Party supporting nuclear submarines and the waste that comes from those submarines. He'll be able to point to all the other countries in the world that are trialling this or have it as part of the mix and how it's lowered their cost of energy. So these are all areas that he's quite comfortable to be in.
They've obviously done a fair bit of research in terms of the polling research, Eamonn, and among younger Australians particularly, they're not scarred by some of the history around nuclear energy.
Yeah, and perhaps that is true, and there's no doubt about it. You know, I think the nuclear landscape has changed. That's not the issue. The issue is whether it works for us, whether it works for us in time. And there is not a single person who will tell you it will work in time. And on top of that, there is absolutely no way that a government that dilly-dallied for a decade couldn't even find a way to come up with, believe it or not, a national central repository for radiological waste. This is not even the stuff you pull out of reactors. It is just a shared, centrally managed repository for the stuff that comes out of hospital x-rays. Now, Peter Dutton was part of government that 10 years on couldn't find a solution. So that's the low-level stuff. Imagine the dramas he and his outfit might have trying to even find a place that would take the high-level stuff, let alone deliver and build anything that resembles a nuclear power station. And on top of that, mate, these guys are up against their own legacy and failure to deliver. You know, second-rate NBN, all those sorts of things are basically adding up against them. I mean, let's not forget, younger voters might be okay with nuclear, but there's a whole nation that votes that hasn't forgotten some of these key failures in terms of the coalition record.
If the arguments do stack up so in such a compelling way, David, why have they not got the likes of David Crisafulli, the LNP leader, on board in Queensland? He doesn't want to support nuclear for Queensland.
Don't forget, Queensland is a big coal state. So I think David Crisafulli is supporting the coal industry. But don't forget, just like The Voice, when the state leaders were almost unanimously in favour of The Voice until we had a referendum on it, and then they all unanimously became opposed to The Voice. So I think that the next federal election will be a referendum on this type of power, and you'll see the states go into line. I'm sort of staggered that we haven't heard Eamonn talk about three-headed fish and The Simpsons and Springfield and all the other things that you're going to see a lot of over the next little while, because we're going to have the mother of all scare campaigns that is played out before us over the next little while. But let me take him back to one of the reasons why we haven't had the debate we're about to have. Take your mind back to 2007 when Ziggy Switkowski did a review of nuclear power and said, absolutely, this is something that Australia should look at for energy security in the mix. That was 2007. We're now 2024. Within minutes of the Switkowski review coming out, then Transport and Infrastructure Minister Anthony Albanese had 150 Shell press releases out into every seat saying a nuclear power plant is coming to a town near you. So if anyone is sort of expert in running scare campaigns on this, it is the Labor Party. Yeah. And unfortunately, that has conditioned the debate, and it's meant we haven't been able to have a sensible discussion around repositories. But fast forward now, we've got nuclear submarines coming. Labor has signed up to that. Technology has moved on, so you've got Rolls-Royce, Westinghouse, Hyundai, all building these plants all around the world where power prices are lower. So I think the debate will change because technology has changed and we've moved forward.
Okay. David Gazzard, Eamonn Fitzpatrick, gents. We'll be talking about this a fair bit, I think, over coming weeks. Appreciate that.